Today's reset class is dedicated to downward facing dog. So down dog is a pose that we not only find in our yoga practice holding, but also using as a transition. So since it comes up so often, all the more reason for us to dig in deep, really understand this thing and figure out how we can hold this pose in a sustainable way that'll ultimately serve us, our bodies, our movement, and our yoga practice as we move forward in this journey of life. So get started coming onto your back. Like always, in these lit yoga methodology classes, even these short reset classes, we'll get started on our back, checking back in with the alignment of the body. So we'll walk our feet in so that we can feel the back of the pelvis, the sacrum, the scapula, our two shoulder blades here on the back of the ribs, and our skull connected to the floor and in line. We call this triple S. You got the back of the skull, the scapula, the sacrum, all connected to the ground here. From here, we're gonna keep our feet on the floor, but then just take your hands and very lightly bring them onto your glutes. Now start to feel the glutes and even give them a little light, gentle pat. What we're doing here, I know it might feel a little bit silly, but what we're doing here has a very serious purpose. We are bringing awareness of our mind to our glutes, sending a little bit of afferent feedback to the mind from this muscle. So since we're going to be coming into a little bit of hip extension and our glutes are our primary hip extenders, we want to make sure our brain knows where they are. Take your hands onto the two bony frontal hip points at the front of the pelvis. They're called your ASISs. So here you can feel your hips in this hip flexion, just like they will be in our down dog. Now, right now, to activate the glutes, we're going to press into the feet and extend those hips. You should feel the muscle fibers of the glutes fire up here. It's not about going up really high with the hips and the pelvis, but just about feeling a little extension into the hips, maintaining the length in the low back. Lower back down until you come all the way to the ground. You'll feel your sacrum tap the floor, then press back into the feet and feel that hip extension again. And keep going like this. So we're doing a little bit of a lift and lower to fire up those glutes, giving ourselves some real connection. Now we're really sending that signal back the other way, the mind connecting to the glutes, asking that muscle to fire up here for you. It can be good to check in with your hands on the ASISs here, giving them a little push down into those frontal hip points will help to fire up the glutes. You also want to check in and make sure that it's not the low back that's really taking over for you. You'll notice the higher up you go, the more that back is going to want to take over. So stay low. This is about turning the glutes on. Again, it's not about getting up high with the hips. And then also continue to press into the feet and really establish that connection. Feel like your leg bones are almost drawing deeper into the hip sockets. And then next time you lift up, we're gonna hold that low ramp pose. We'll call it ramp pose because that's more of the shape that we're going for here. We're also gonna have this sense of ramping up in the glutes. My glutes are on fire right now, so I hope you're feeling a little bit of something there watching this. Keep your hips up again. We're extending them. Take the hands up towards the ceiling like you're holding a little invisible drink tray in each hand. We're gonna take our right palm across our left four fingers and give ourselves a little stretch into the wrist, just preparing for a little bit of weight bearing. And down dog is another wonderful pose where we get the opportunity to load our arms and our shoulders and to bear our own body weight through those hands. Not a position our body gets very often, so it can really help with establishing, bringing balance back into the whole system. Release your left wrist, circle it a few times, both directions, really let that thing creak and sing to you. Then take your right hand back up. Remember, hold that invisible tray, pull back on the right four fingers. So we're pulling back, extending into the wrist, even that right thumb, getting a little pull away from the center of the palms. Keep rooting your tailbone toward your heels. Remember, you can really be hovering off of the ground. It is not about how high up you are. It's about making sure those glutes are really pumping in and feeling that energy. Keep pressing into the feet. If you feel any pressure in the knees, you could always walk your feet out a little bit further, actually. Let that really travel into the hips and come out of the knees. Or at least our right wrist, circle it a few times. And then we'll bring ourselves down from our upper, middle, and lower back. So as you bring yourself all the way down, we'll prepare to wake up the abdominal webbing, another important part of this downward facing dog. Take the fingers, interlace them, bring them behind your skull. Elbows are going to pull in here nice and close, almost like we're making a hammock for our neck here. We don't want it to be helping out too much since we're going to be really asking the deep core stabilizers, this webbing of abdominals, again, between the hips and the ribs to fire up and do our lifting. Inhale, fill up the torso. So big inhale there. Exhale and lift. You want to pull into that area between the hips and those low ribs. Again, that whole webbing of the abdominals and the torso drawing in towards that back line of the body. Inhale and lower. Exhale and lift. Everything gathers together. You're drawing the abdominals inward towards that low back area. And then take your left forearm from behind your head and place it on the lowest ribs. It's almost like you're buckling the seatbelt here on the ribs and really strapping yourself down. Feel that connection with the help of the forearm. Left hand comes back behind the head and we inhale and lower. Exhale and lift. Everything gathers together. Right forearm onto those low ribs and really press it down there. Try and keep the neck relaxed, but see if you can pull more into the webbing of the abdominals. Right hand comes back, inhale and lower. Add on a little bit here. Exhale and lift. Once again, left forearm onto the lowest ribs. Really give them a gentle press down, feel that connection, and then kick your left leg forward. So you're just kicking that same side forward, really spreading the toes here, getting a little expansion. Left foot comes down, left hand comes back. Inhale and lower. Exhale and lift. Everything gathers together. Right forearm to the low ribs. Kick that right leg forward, spread the toes. Everything gathers together here. And then right foot comes back down, right hand comes back. Inhale and lower. Exhale and lift. Everything gathers together. Bring left forearm to left thigh. Kick left leg forward. We're going to bring our left leg forward first, so a little bit over the hip, and then drop it down below that right leg. Woo, then bring it back up. Left foot comes down, left hand comes back. Inhale and lower, so adding a little hip movement there. Exhale and lift. Right forearm comes to the low ribs. Really buckle yourself down here, so feel that connection. Right foot kicks forward. Flex the hip, bring it a little closer towards you, and then lower it, little hip extension. Bring it back in line. Right foot comes down, right hand comes back. Inhale and lower. Wiggle your feet wide and keep the sacrum connected to the ground, but just allow your legs to rock from side to side. Call this a windshield wiper for the legs. You're getting a little back and forth like a windshield wiper. You're just feeling a little hip articulation here, but still focus on rooting the tailbone towards the heels, allowing for the movement to primarily take place in your hips and create that support for everything around it. Then we'll slow our little hip release down, come over to one side. Come onto your hands and knees. Coming into a quadruped, we're going to bring our palms underneath the shoulders. The knees can be under the hips or even closer to the wrists. I've honestly found that you really can't get those knees too close towards the wrists. So find something that's comfortable for you in that crawling position, especially for the knees there. Again, hands are under the shoulders. Let's focus there first. Look at your fingers and really spread those fingers out. Grip that floor nice and strong. Make sure your both wrists are lined up with the top short edge of the mat here so that when we press down into the hands, we can feel this little bit of feedback from the floor. It travels up the arm and helps to suction cup the scapula onto the back ribs. Now you can really feel that. So your hands won't actually move, but feel like you could dial your left hand out to the left and your right hand out to the right. And then also don't allow it to really influence the elbows either. What we're doing is we're pretending like we're trying to spin those hands out, really just energetically pressing into them, feeling like they would dial out and lighting up these forearms. So you should feel this travel of energy up the forearm, around into the tricep and onto that back of the scapula again. Check in with the middle torso. So right here at the core, feel that lift. Remember the webbing of the abdominals pulling into the low back. Don't let that energy leak out, but hold the container of the core there like it is containing that energy. That's what it's doing. We're gonna first, for a moment here, just lift our gaze to help out if our head is drooping towards the floor at all. So you can lift your gaze, lift that chin, and then bring your chin in towards the chest. Feel again like you're in that triple S position with your skull, your scapula, your sacrum on the ground, but this time we don't have the floor to give us that nice feedback. So already just holding this quadruped, you might be feeling a lot is happening here. This is good. We are activating the whole body, bringing it back into that alignment, taking it out of that typically rounded forward position that it's in and reestablishing that neutral for the body. So again, remember, containment of the core here, pressing into the hands and the legs equally. Tuck your toes underneath of you. Push into the hands and hover the knees off the ground. With an exhale, you push in your hands, push in your toes, and just hover those knees off the ground. You should be feeling, again, the webbing of the abdominals, pulling into the low back area, the left hand feeling like it could dial out to the left, the right hand feeling like it could dial out to the right, but you got that sticky mat underneath, so they won't really move, just energetically lighting it up. Bring the knees down. Take an inhale here in that quadruped, maintain that energy. So notice if the head falls out on you, if the low ribs let go, if the tailbone pops up, direct that tailbone down, lift the webbing of the abdominals, lift the throat into the back of the neck. Keep it all in line, pushing the hands and the toes equally here, just hovering your knees. So much happening here. Here too, you can light up the arms even more. Feel like you could like push your hands outward towards the pinky-eyed sides of the hands, and then now pretend like you were gonna pull them back towards your feet here. So that should really light it up, send it really directly into that core. Shoulders are really working for you. Knees come down and take a breath in. Now we're gonna start to set up for our downward facing dog. To prep for that though, we're gonna first just push in the hands and spread your shoulder blades away from each other. So really protract those shoulder blades. Spread them, spread them, spread them by pushing down into the hands. And then slide those shoulder blades back together in towards the spine until you come back to that neutral feeling of the chest. Scapula sitting comfortably on the back ribs. Push into the hands, spread the shoulder blades away from each other. So we're getting this spreading, this protracting. This will help us as we move into our down dog. We'll bring those shoulder blades back down onto those back ribs. One more time, push in the hands. We're gonna stay in that protracted position. So push in the hands, slide the shoulder blades away from each other, protracting them. And then with the toes tucked, first start off hovering the knees. Now you can stay here today. Second option is with the hands and the feet staying equal in their weight bearing, hoist the pelvis up towards the ceiling. So I'm not gonna push my chest back towards my legs. Instead, I'm gonna focus on both my toes and my palms, pressing into the ground, elongating my shoulders up to my ears, feeling like the femur bones, the legs here are pulling deeper into the hip sockets, allowing a generous bend in the knees. Low back is long here. So the elbows are straight. Again, weight is supported in the hands and the feet equally. Breathe into your back like it's a big balloon. You wanna fill this thing up. And every exhale, we're gonna breathe into the webbing of the abdominals. Feel those low ribs are lifting into that back line. You might even feel like you're rounding just a little bit, but really allow that engagement of the core to help to spread out that back. Keep pushing into the hands. Don't collapse the chest, but if anything, feel like the palms almost have like a sensation of pulling your chest up and out of the armpits. You can always lift your ankles as well to any degree. They might be super lifted. They might even be touching the ground, but don't worry about touching them to the ground. Focus on prioritizing those long lines in the body. Another big breath in here. Feel like those hip flexors are getting deeper for you. So drawing those leg bones deeper into the hip sockets, pressing more into the hands, more into the toes. Don't be afraid. Shrug those shoulders up to the ears and then bring your knees all the way down. Take a look, cat-cow here. So come all the way through by pulling with the hands and open up the chest, broadening our collarbone here, maintaining that strength of core. Push into the hands, spread your shoulder blades and puff up in the upper back again, protracting. Root your tailbone down. Get another pull forward. Inhale. Exhale, push into the hands. So with our down dog here, we are, keep going with this cat-cow, and we'll talk about down dog. We are working this deep hip flexion, working, protracting the shoulder blades, elongating the whole body. Don't just let the chest collapse back to the legs because one, we want to keep this centering, the humeral head. You can get pushed into some soft stuff that can get a little cranky on you if you let that chest collapse a lot. And so again, that doesn't really feed into the sustainability of the posture. In fact, unfortunately, often leads to some injury and discomfort for people. So just exploring all these ways that we can hold these soft areas, the ligaments, the tendons of the body with support from those muscular structures that move and influence that movement. All right, one more time, push in the hands, spread your shoulder blades. We're coming back to one more downward facing dog. From protracted quadruped, tuck your toes so shoulder blades are spreading. First, just hover the knees and then hoist your pelvis. Remember your sacrum on the ground, we lifted it up in bridge. Hoist that up towards the ceiling and just focus on sending it directly up. Keep the knees bent. You can relax the heels towards the floor, but again, don't worry about touching them to the ground. Then push into your hands. Don't let your chest collapse, but instead
Let it straighten the elbows and lift your shoulders up towards your ears. Feel really long here. Another big breath into your back like a big balloon. Exhale, breathe it in, feel the low ribs are lifting. Then we're gonna start our walk our down dog. So take a step forward with your left foot and walk the right hand forward one step. So it's opposite hand and opposite foot. Then move your right foot forward with the left hand. You might run out of space like I am here. So we'll move that right leg back, left hand back, left leg back, right hand back. We'll keep going like that, just opposite hand and opposite leg, starting to walk and crawl here for you. And it doesn't have to stay like in a perfect down dog position, but what you're doing is now you're moving from that down dog, using all the same principles of holding that down dog, core stays on, feeling that lift, getting this deep flexion in the hips, suction those top leg bones, those femur bones up and into the hip socket. Keep pressing the hand, straighten out that elbow as you weight bear on it, walking back and forth with this feeling of lifting in the chest and the abdominals supporting us. And when a little walking your dog every now and then, besides just being a good time, right? Anyone who's ever walked a dog, right? It's always a good time walking that dog. But what it does here for us in the practice is this particular movement is really revealing to us how open you truly are in that back line of the body. So notice the restricted spots. Notice the areas that are maybe wanting to kind of quit this a little quicker than some other spots. And we'll all just come back to down dog, middle of the mat, lower the knees. One more time, take a cat-cow. Then pull the chest forward, broaden the chest, push in the hands, and spread your shoulder blades. Keep going like that, or if you want, we can move our thoracic spine and free it even more by circling the ribs to the left as we push into the hands and protract, take them down to the right, and then you can pull the chest forward with that little cobra chest. Pushing, taking it around, a little rib circle. And you'll make sure you get both directions. So however many you want there, feel free to make it as long as you want. We'll change directions. I'll show you from the front here. So I'm trying to keep my elbows straight, just taking my ribs around one way, puffing up in between those shoulder blades around the other way, and then dropping those ribs down. Taking it through those little circles. All right, slow that down. So from here, obviously, since this is a reset class, nice and short for you, you are either welcome to get back to work if this is like a lunch break thing for you. Feel free to shake out those wrists. You were just weight bearing a lot on them. You can always kind of re-stretch them, reassess them. Feel free to go forward into another yoga class. You should be all reset and ready to go and be prepared to move in that body, or even like another HIIT, high intensity interval training class is a great preparation for that. But again, even if this is just all you did, getting on your mat and moving, that walking down dog, really going to give you that assessment, just how free, open, and ready to move everything is. So I hope that this is helpful for you. As always, the light in me honors the light that shines within each and every one of you. I bow to that light in respect, the light that truly does shine from within and tie us all together. Have a great rest of the day, everybody.